So I know, hi, welcome back to Reading with Leon. I know we just did a songbook, and it was not my intention to do another one, but I think this is cool. There's a song on the back about the Erie Canal. Low bridge, everybody down. I have not heard this one. I know the one 15 miles on the Erie Canal or something like that. Is a song I know. It's like my son got a hold of, but hopefully everything is here. It's called The Amazing Impossible Erie Canal by Cheryl Harness. And it says this book is from my dad, Kim, my friend, and Mary Beth, my hero. Cool picture. So it's kind of cool. It has a cool little map. And the blue is the 13 original states. The, I guess that's supposed to be red. It's either red or pink. Is Great Britain lost most of this land to the U.S. in the Treaty of Paris in 1783, ending the Revolutionary War. And the purple is Thomas Jefferson bought this land from France in 1803 for $15 million. And the orange is the Mexican territory until 1845 to 1848. And then there's like a little goldeny, orangey color. This land was occupied by the U.S. and Great Britain from 1818 to 1846. So, hopefully you guys learned something. And there's that map again, so you can kind of see. After a second war against Great Britain, the War of 1812, the people of the United States were feeling confident about the future of their expanding nation. Thousands of pioneers struggled over a rough barrier, the thickly wooded Appalachian Mountains that extended down the continent. That's Erie. On the other side was the tantalizing west stretch, clear to the Mississippi River and beyond. Settlers' wagons jolted miserably down roads that once had been Indian trails. When farmers and fur trappers got to the lonely frontier, they found that it cost too much and took too long to ship apples, flour, wood, and pelts to the eastern market. Eastern merchants had no easy way to sell axes, plows, and buttons to customers in the west. Okay, sorry, I got lost in the pretty pictures. And so here, there's a little thing of Lake Ontario, and it shows Henry Hudson explored here in 1609. You'll see Niagara Falls, Buffalo on the shore of Lake Erie, the Genesee River, there's a lake, there's a few lakes, Lake Ontario, some more falls and lakes, and it says, from Fort Stanwix, Rome boats were carried 2 miles to the Wood Creek, which flowed into Oneida Lake, which is right there. And then there's some little creeks and stuff. And it said it took nearly a month or more to get a barrel of flour from the shores of Lake Erie along the Mohawk Trail to the Hudson River. However difficult, this passage followed a natural gap in the Appalachian Range. Once ancient times, native people such as the Senecas and the Onondagas had floated their light canoes along the Mohawk River, Wood Creek, and Oneida Lake on the way to Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. So that's Lake Erie, and that's Lake Ontario. And so there's Oneida Lake, and there's the Mohawk River, and there's Little Wood Creek, and so that's how the Indians did it. European colonists moved their heavy, flat-bottomed boats on the same waterways. They too had to work around the obstructions, and I actually think I read a book recently that had a similar thing. It was about a country that, didn't really exist, but they had similar things. They would carry people and goods to trade on a flatboat, and they called it ferries, through lakes and through creeks and stuff, and then you'd have to get out, carry your goods again, you know, however way they could. So that would be kind of hard. Sometimes it would take months. Why not connect these rivers and lakes with a man-made stream as in the old country? They wondered. Smoothly floating boats could be pulled along by horses, walking on the banks, and after the War of Independence was over in 1783, George Washington himself championed the idea of such canals. Travel and trade made easy and cheap could hold a young country together. If such a waterway was constructed between the Great Lakes and the Hudson, a person could float from Ohio clear to London. It seemed an impossible dream. If only the millions of dollars could be raised, if only all the engineering problems could be solved, a ditch 40 feet wide carrying 4 feet of water could be made to go up and down 363 miles across the countryside. Impossible. What do you guys think? Nevertheless, a politician named DeWitt Clinton argued that the canal was more than possible. It was necessary, not only for New York, but for America. It would be a pathway into the country's heartland. The people agreed, and Mr. Clinton became the governor. A long-awaited summer morning, gentlemen wearing tall silk hats gathered in the meadow near Rome, New York. So that, where it said Rome. So I guess that's over Rome, New York. Rome, New York, in the level center of the state where the digging was easy. Romans wore their best clothes, and a band played a fanfare on shiny cornets as the ground was broken for the Erie Canal at dawn on the 4th of July, 1817. How the canal was built. After the groundbreaking at Rome, July 4th, 1817, then came the stake setters, the soil borers, the underbrush scrubbers, the tree choppers, chopper downers, stump pullers, and root cutters, ditch diggers, and dirt movers. Hundreds of workers came from hungry Ireland. They overcame their fears of American wildcats, owls, and snakes. Hard workers dug and created the Erie Canal. 363 miles long, the longest uninterrupted canal in the world. So they started here, but then they had to go back that way to Albany, New York. And it said that some places are higher than I don't even know how to say that place, is higher than Albany. There's aqueducts made, and and it looks like the bridges were low to save money. And if you get this book, you can see all the cool stuff. All the little captions and stuff. And there's Rochester, New York. And Lockport, and then it stopped in Buffalo, and then Buffalo, which is where Lake Erie is. And actually, if you keep going around, you'll get to Ohio. We learned about the Erie Canal in Ohio. It was one of the important things we learned. So what locks do is the boat enters the lock through one of the main gates. And as water flows in or out the sluice gate, the boat is raised or lowered to the next level. And bridges that carry water, 18 aqueducts were built to carry the canal over rivers and valleys. There are 83 locks built to carry the canal over the shape of the land. They were built with carefully cut stone blocks held together with the waterproof cement invented by Canvas White. And thousands of trees had to be gotten out of the way of the canal. This huge machine was invented to pull up the stumps. When a team of mules pulled the ropes around the center wheel, the chain around the mighty axle yanked out the most stubborn stumps. Governor Clinton sent young Canvas White to study the English canals and especially their locks, and he brought back hundreds of drawings. Brilliant Nathan Roberts engineered the Lockport 5, the only two-way locks on the canal. They climbed the Niagara Escarpment. After 2 years of blasting and building, the Lockport's lock were finished in 1825, and it looks like it took a long time. It started on 1817 and took 8 years. 5 years later, the people were worried the project would never be paid for or finished. The governor lost his job. Mr. Clinton kept overseeing the work and making speeches anyways. His political enemies called the canal the Clinton's Ditch. But the voters felt better as they traveled more and more on the almost finished waterway, which was already earning money in tolls. For example, 1 penny for 1 ton of grain hauled 1 mile. Mr. Clinton won the election of the 1824. The following year, the impossible Erie Canal was done. Clinton's Ditch was said with pride. It was time to celebrate. 10 o'clock Wednesday morning, October 26, 1820. Oh, no, I did show you the picture already. Okay. Boom! The Buffalo cannon thundered. It was echoed by a distant thump from Black Rock to the north. Birds fluttered up in clouds from the bright fall treetops, gun by gun, from Lake Erie, 363 miles down the amazing ribbon of water and down the Hudson to the sea. The news was signaled. After 8 years of work, the Erie Canal was done. 4 gray horses headed down the towpath, pulling the Seneca Chief, Governor DeWitt Clinton's packet. The Seneca Chief was followed by 4 more packets as the sleek horse-drawn passenger boats were called. Loud were the cheers from the crowd and the music from the band. The louder still were the rifle salutes fired into the sky. Besides people, the Seneca Chief carried green-painted kegs of water from Lake Erie for the ceremony at the end of the journey. Lake water poured into the salty Atlantic Ocean would mean that the waters of East and West were connected at last. The water current pushed the eastbound boats through the locks on the left. The narrow towpath was cut high up in the rock wall with the deep cut that went 7.5 miles across the mountain ridge. The deep cut was 30 feet deep in some places. Wow. The west end of the canal was 565 feet higher than the eastern end. 12 miles of Towanda Creek was turned into the Erie Canal. Where would the canal end when it reached the Great Lake? There was a fierce competition between Black Rock and Buffalo. So it shows Albany is the lowest, and then Buffalo is the highest. You can see that. In that little thing there, it shows the deepness. The gaily decorated horses clopped at 4 miles an hour. Every 10 miles or so, fresh teams of horses or mules replaced the tired animals on the towing ropes. More canal boats joined the procession in Lockport. There were all floated 63 feet down the 5 double stair-step locks. Already famous as great feats of engineering, the locks were built into a massive ridge of limestone, the toughest obstacle on the path of the canal. The people on the packet stared, full of wondering, at the fitted stones in the wet walls as the gates were opened and closed, allowing water to flow out to the next lock, lowering boats one by one, level by level. Amazing. After feasting, fireworks, and speeches at Lockport, the parade of boats continued east, past bonfires on the bluffs and cabins with candles burning in every window. Late into the October night, the governor stood with the captain at the tiller, watching bats and moths dance in the lantern light. The tow ropes made shimmers on the dark water. Clinton thought of the long years of hot debates and hard digging. Then he savored the sound of cowbells, bullfrogs, and steady hoofbeats on the towpath. The boats were greeted at Hawley early in the morning of Thursday, October 27th, the second day. A mighty aqueduct, 802 feet long, spanned the Genesee River. Here, the Rochester Packet, Young Lion of the West, joined the procession. Less than 20 years later, this aqueduct was replaced one with 2 lanes and no leaks. Rochester was 2 to 7:30 p.m. The third day, breakfast in Palmyra, Friday, October 28th. Newark at 11, Lyons 2 to 4. 10 p.m. fireworks in Montezuma. The people of Port Byron launched an illuminated balloon high on a hill over the village. A bonfire blazed to welcome the boats from the west. 2 young men of Weeport were killed when the celebration cannon went off by accident. Oh my goodness. That was the 4th day of the voyage. 2 p.m. October 29th, around Syracuse, in time for dinner. Sunday morning, October 30th, they reached Rome. In the rainy afternoon of the second day, the growing procession of boats reached Rochester, nearly 93 miles out from Buffalo. The next morning, the boats passed under an arch at Macedon, where a banner hailed Clinton in the canal. With bellies full of breakfast, ears full of patriotic speeches, on the passengers went. "Bridge," called the driver boys up ahead. "Low bridge." Puffing and grumbling and laughing, the ladies and gentlemen ducked down as the farmers and villagers on the bridge shouted, "Hurrah!" The 29th of October marked the 4th day of the great journey to the east. The boats were towed to Syracuse for a celebration supper. Sunday morning on the 5th day, the Seneca chief was greeted by the villagers of Rome. It was here that the digging had begun 8 long years before. Between Rome and Utica, 15 miles east, the Erie Canal had been open since 1890, but to the Romans' sorrow, the main waterway ended up bypassing the center of their village, where only a bit of old canal remained. Some put aside their hurt feelings to cheer the governor and the packets and the rest. That would be sad. The 5th day, 12:30, they were in Utica. The travelers go to church and stay for supper and speeches. October 31st, the 6th day, the boats leave Utica 8 a.m. Monday. Journey in the dead of night around the Little Falls and Nelson. November 1st, the 7th day, they were around Amsterdam. Albany was 10:30 a.m. on the 8th day. Did I show you the picture? There's the picture. The night of the 6th day was Halloween. Bonfires burned high on the crags and cliffs at Little Falls, where the wild Mohawk River foamed and crashed 30 feet below the triple-arched aqueduct that carried the canal eastward. The procession floated 94 feet downwards through 13 locks along the 40 miles to Schenectady. Inside the boats the next morning, the people could hear cold November rain on the roof. The steersmen at the tillers pulled their collars high about their ears. The horses on the towpath lowered their heads. 26 more stone and timber locks carried them 218 feet deeper down the last 30 miles of the river valley into the morning of November 2nd, 1825. It had taken just 7 days to go from Buffalo to Albany, where the Erie Canal emptied into the Hudson River. Now you can go from Ohio to New York in 13 hours. Technology. Oh, shoot, I forgot the first part of the thing. Congratulations, Governor, shouted the pathmaster, and to your lady. Mr. Clinton tipped his hat as his wife nodded her silk bonnet. The pathmaster's job was to keep cows, pigs, fishermen, and buggy races off the towpath. He carried a bundle of straw on his back for plugging leaks made by pesky minks and muskrats tunneling in the banks. If the canal bank gave way, farmers' fields would be flooded, leaving muddy ditch and a stranded boats. That's an important job. Thousands of people lined the canal banks, towpath, and berm. Brass bands, school children, and veterans of the War of 1812 waited with old soldiers of the Revolutionary who polished their medals and muskets. Some folks dressed in Dutch colonial costumes they found in their pointy attics. Cannon fire vibrated the air. Here they come! Governor Clinton stepped down off the Seneca chief to preside over a pageant of lofty words and entertainments. Banners read, "Peace and commerce," and the grand work is done. So 17 years earlier, in 1808, Robert Fulton's little steamboat Claremont had chugged up the Hudson all by herself. November 3rd, this is a bright autumn day. A multitude gathered to see a fleet of 18 steamships shooting sparks, white columns of steam, and black plumes of smoke. Canal boats, all decked out with flags and streamers, set off down the wide river. The fleet glided past the red gold Catskill Mountains. When twilight deepened on the river, lanterns were lighted, cannons thudded, rockets exploded, and red fires burned on the shores. After a 24-gun salute, West Point officers came aboard the Seneca chief for a midnight band concert. Then everyone went to bed. Tomorrow will be a big day, the wedding of the waters. Looks like then they go down the Hudson River all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. That is super cool. Bells were ringing in the towers and steeples of New York City, where more flag and bunting-covered steam vessels, barges, and pilot boats joined the fleet. The flotilla sailed past Brooklyn, through the Narrows, down to Sandy Hook, on the eastern tip of New Jersey. Here at last, DeWitt Clinton lifted a green and gold cask to his shoulder and slowly poured water from Lake Erie into the unusually calm and glassy Atlantic Ocean. The mixing together of these waters, fresh and salty, western and eastern, represented a huge accomplishment for a young nation. Gold medal souvenirs of the day would be sent to President John Quincy Adams, his father John Adams, and the other former presidents still living, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Madison, and Mr. Monroe. After the solemn ceremony, musicians aboard 2 British vessels outside the harbor struck up Yankee Doodle in honor of the occasion. The Americans answered with "God Save the King." More salutes were fired, then everybody ate breakfast as they sailed back to the city to watch 5,000 marchers in a festive street parade. Later that night, when the smoke from the fireworks still hung in the air, folks made their way home through the dark streets, still talking excitedly. "We'll never see the like of that again. Did you see them balls of fire leaping out of the roof of City Hall? Rockets, red dragons, and stars raining down, by golly. What did that one feller say? The longest canal in the world? That's the fact. The longest in the least time with the least experience and know-how for the least money. $7 million is the least money, you say? Why, price of shipping will drop like an anvil off a roof. Folks going back and forth in 1/3 the time, as smooth as you please. Say, there's a ride I'd like to take a whirl at myself. The old Erie Canal." The The Seneca chief returned to Buffalo with a barrel of seawater. Curious day trippers, New Englanders with Ohio fever, immigrants such foreign travels as Charles Dickens and the Marquis de Lafayette, as well as families who lived and worked on and about the Erie Canal, all traveled America's first superhighway. The Grand Western Erie Canal had cost $7,143,789 to build. By 1883, the canal would earn 17 times the amount. $461,871 in total revenues. Many different kinds of boats were seen in the canal. Bullhead freighters carried flour and grain. Line boats carried both people and freight. They often had a stable in the forward end for the spare team. Square-cornered scows carried lumber, and icebreakers were used to lengthen the boating season. But the sleek, brightly painted packet boats were the streamlined queens of the Erie Canal. They carried passengers only, as many as hundreds at a time. 80 by 14 feet was the common size of the packets. The captain and the helmsman took turns at the tiller. After dinner in the main cabin, narrow beds were folded down like hanging bookshelves. Curtains separated the ladies' quarters. You can see the picture there. Life in the wilderness was transformed by floating libraries, taverns, showboats, and church boats, with flour, beef, wool, and lumber going east, and boatloads of merchandise and settlers going west on the big ditch. New towns began, and old towns, especially New York City, got bigger and richer. Most of all, the Grand Western Canal, as it was called, was a source of pride for the nation and a link between the old and the new states of the Union. In 1831, a steam locomotive began running a railway between Albany and Schenectady. As time went by, people wanted to go faster, so they bought railroad tickets, leaving the canal to log rafts, freight boats, and barges. Because of the traffic jams, the canal was made wider and deeper, with more double locks for more boats by 1862. By 1918, the Erie Canal had become part of the huge New York State barge canal system. It, along with the U.S. Interstate 90, follows the ancient Mohawk Trail. DeWitt Clinton's once impassable ditch had been bypassed and paved over, locks left to crumble. New ways had taken its place. That's sad. I should have left the canal. And there's the sources of information. I hope you guys learned something today. I learned stuff too that I didn't remember from school. And if you guys have anything you'd like me to read or things you want to learn about that I could read for you, that isn't too big. Leave it in the comments or message me, and have a great day. Bye.